Guess that answers my question, doesn't it? And if you're in the witness protection program like I am, you can hit the leave the meeting button. So, well, welcome everybody after our couple month hiatus. Welcome back. Sorry we couldn't be all in person, but with the case counts rising once again, felt that this would be a safer and better option. And appreciate everybody being here tonight. This is the Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club and our January meeting, and we have a very full slate and very full agenda. Jordan, you got to come back on camera. I can't even look at you in that picture. Or we need a new picture, sorry. So I understand, excuse me, Amanda. Yep, there you are. I got everybody on my screen. I don't have the presenter mode. So Amanda wanted to take just a few moments to talk about her project, which includes 3 of our counties, Kennebec, Mille Lacs, and Pine.
Yep.
So Amanda, give you about 3, 4, 5 minutes.
Sure.
All right.
And I don't know if you want me to stay on for the rest of your meeting or leave. I'll take your guide with that. But some of you I know.
You're absolutely more than welcome to stay on for the entire 6 hours.
Meh. So my name is Amanda Lamppa, and I'm a new project coordinator with what's called Innovate 218. And so I'll give you guys a brief history. Some of you may know, but DEED, the Department of Economic and Employment, started an initiative in 2019 called Launch Minnesota. And Launch's whole goal was to have startup funds for startup entrepreneurs. And so how they tackled this task was they divided the state into 6 different areas. I don't understand why they just didn't copy the same areas as SBDC, but whatever. So we are what's considered northeastern Minnesota. So we do Pine, Cook, Kennebec, Mille Lacs, Carlton, Itasca, St. Louis, Aiken, and I think I got them all. But so in those 9 counties, we serve startup entrepreneurs, and how we do that is we have funds that we give for tuition for if you guys know anybody who has an idea and they just need to get their idea iterated out and kind of clear out their mind of how and if they want to go with their business adventure. It's a 10-week cohort that they get together on Tuesday nights virtually. And right now we had 37 applicants from our region, which is awesome. So it shows that there is a need and a want for this. And right now we're in the process of interviewing all the candidates, and we hope to get it down to about 24 is a really good class size to conduct these. So they're the 24 founders is what they call them, go through these 10-week courses, and the tuition is paid for by Innovate 218, which is funded by Launch. And so after these 10-week cohorts, the students come out and they are more prepared to kind of graduate to that next level of SBDC to kind of take their business to the next places, or where SBDC would take them to entrepreneur fund if they need funding or what have you. But this is the very beginning stages for startup entrepreneurs. It's classes. We also host, we're hoping to do 3 pitch competitions. So these entrepreneurs can submit their ideas, and then we have 5 live pitchers come to an event, and we have 5 judges. It's kind of fun. It's like Shark Tank. The entrepreneurs have 5 minutes to pitch their ideas, and the judges have 5 minutes to deliberate them. And then we give out $10,000 worth of prizes, which is awesome because everybody knows that capital is really what startup entrepreneurs need. So we have some really cool things in the works. We've got free tuition, some pitch competitions. We're going to be doing I See a Kitty speaker series coming up, and networking events just like this one. And if you guys want me to come down and do another one that's in person live, maybe later in the year when COVID isn't such an issue and it's not 40 below zero, I'd be happy to do so. So that's kind of my elevator pitch where what Innovate 218 does. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Questions for Amanda?
Can you include Chisago County?
I wish I could. I think Chisago County is, if you go to the Launch Minnesota website, you can see how they divided the state. And I think Chisago County is included with that North Metro. Which is funny because when we inherited Pine, Kennebec, and Mille Lacs up here in the Northland, we were like, what? Those are Minneapolis areas. And then when we went down and we met with Heidi and Michael and Leslie, they were like, we're not Minneapolis at all. And I think it was Leslie who said, we're kind of feel like we're the redheaded stepchildren down here in these counties.
Mhm.
So you are now with us in the Northland.
Well, my hair's not red, but I'm in Pine County, so.
Do you have a social media presence that folks that are interested, they could follow you and for updates and all that kind of jazz?
Yes, our website it should have been live a month ago, but we've made it complicated. Long story. The website will be up probably within the next 3 weeks. And I'm just gonna put in the chat line here where they can go currently. Currently the web page sits on the IEDC website. And if they go to that web page, they can see kind of when the classes are going to be offered and just kind of get a little more information about it. But like I said, in 3 weeks, we should have a proper website that looks a little more professional. So it's not just on the IEDC web page. But yes, we do have a Facebook. I don't even know. I'm so underprepared. Our marketer just created it, and I don't think I've really been on it much yet. But there is, if you search Innovate 218, there is a Facebook presence as well. And every time, and it's Jordan and Michelle, Heidi, Michael, those folks are as of now on our task force. And whenever we have something going on, I think Rebecca, I think you may have just joined too through Mark in Aiken County. But every time we have something going on, what we do is we send out to our task force flyers of what's going on so that you folks know and you can spread it on to your entrepreneurs.
Great, awesome. Any other questions for Amanda? Seeing none. Amanda, thank you. And again, you're more than welcome to stay.
I'll stick
And-
around for a bit. It's kind of interesting to see how other communities and groups meet and do things. So if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind sticking around.
Absolutely, we do not mind at all.
Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
All right, thank you. If I heard correctly, Rebecca, you were gonna go first. You guys had flipped a coin behind the scenes and you were the happy winner. Is that correct?
I think so, John, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And based on our conversation earlier today, I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Okay.
Great.
Mark, is it okay if I share my screen?
Absolutely. I believe Jordan has the master controls and I'll just do a quick introduction here for those of you that don't know. This is Rebecca Rowe. She is the Regional Director for the North Central Small Business Development Center, or in the co-op world, we use the alphabet soup, SBDC. And the SBDC provides training at no cost assistance to help entrepreneurs and small businesses start, grow, and succeed. I'll skip over. Before joining the SBDC, Rebecca spent 10 years working for the federal government, and I promise we will try not to hold that against you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I'll take the opportunity as well to let my co-presenter introduce herself. I'll say simply, we're very happy also to have Pam Thomson here with us. She has more experience than me in most topics and is also a former director of the North Central SBDC. Pam?
Thanks, Rebecca. Welcome, everyone. Pam Thomson for the North Central Small Business Development Center, as well as the Central Minnesota Small Business Development Center. So I guess I bleed SBDC. I've been doing SBDC work for a long time, getting close to 40 years. So that tells you that I've been around the block way too long, and just enjoy working with small business. Those of you that know me know my mantra is a maniac on a mission. So always trying to help in some way, shape, or form to help small businesses start, grow, and succeed. And so that's what I love doing, and that's why I'm here this evening. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And before you get rolling, I did forget one thing, and I apologize to everybody. But as you have questions, please type them in the chat box. And I will moderate the questions unless you want to ask them personally at the end of the presentation. But if you think of it like I do, as you go, jot them down in the chat box, please. Rebecca, Pam, go ahead.
Thank you. A quick 1-minute overview, I promise, of the SBDC. Most are cognizant. SBDCs are resource partners of the United States Small Business Administration and the Department of Employment and Economic Development. And we provide no cost and confidential training and assistance to help entrepreneurs and small businesses start, grow, and succeed. I like this little map. Shows that there's 9 SBDCs in the state of Minnesota. We are the North Central SBDC. We work throughout an 11-county region, up to Walker, over to Wadena, east in Pine, and down to Chisago and Isanti. So in the past calendar year, we provided about 3,000 hours of one-on-one technical assistance to about 650 entrepreneurs and small businesses within our 11-county region. I'm not going to go over this list, but it's pretty comprehensive as to the categories of assistance that we provide within business consulting, ranging really from feasibility analyses to cash flow management, QuickBooks, and as we're going to further discuss today, succession planning. Beyond that one-on-one assistance, we also do many workshops and seminars. Last 2 listed here, selling a small business, as well as succession planning for small businesses. I like to engage and interact. So I thought we'd start with a couple warm-up questions as we enter into the topic of business transition planning. So the first question, succession transition planning is just for family businesses. I can't. Sorry, my screen. For family businesses or for business owners who are close to retirement. True or false? I don't have a good quiz here to allow you all to participate, but maybe one person would like to unmute themselves and answer the question.
False.
Amanda said false already in the chat box, so.
Thank you. That is correct, false. I think it's really important to think about life happens. Unless there's a plan to manage the unexpected, the business into which you have put much effort could crumble. A succession plan is peace of mind for the unexpected. And I say, as well as many people say within the field, the 5 dreaded Ds: death, disease, disability, divorce, and dependency. As long as we have our nice drinks here, we can talk about these 5 dreaded Ds. Transition planning is really a contingency plan. So the question number 2, there are around 10 million baby boomer business owners. How many have an exit or a transition plan? Janelle?
In the chat box, Janelle says B, Mike says A, Linda says A. I'm going to take a stab and I'll be different. I'll say C.
So Janelle's right. Congratulations, Janelle. It's 25%, about 2.5 million. It's still a pretty paltry sum if you consider the importance of transition plans and the 5 dreaded Ds that we discussed: death, disease, disability, divorce, and dependency. So around 25% of the 10 million baby boomer business owners have an exit or a transition plan, meaning there are over 7 million without a plan, which is a critical problem and a huge economic gap within our society. Final question as our warm-up: what percent of the financial assets for most business owners are based in, bound up with, the business itself?
We have a C from Janelle, a B from Amanda.
It's C, so about 80 to 90%. And so many business owners have 80 to 90% of their financial assets based on the business itself. The value of the business is often the largest asset on a personal balance sheet, and it is not a liquid asset. The ability to monetize this asset when exiting will significantly impact the owner and their well-being post-exit from the business. I'm gonna hand it over to Pam now. Pam?
Thanks, Rebecca. So I think what we need to help our business owners go through is the only two ways to pass the business on, or what's really certain, is that you either have to sell it or liquidate it. And so there has to be some way of transitioning to that. And my biggest concern always is that they do it on their own terms, voluntarily. Don't get into the 5 dreaded Ds. Too many of the people I've come in contact over the years were forced to sell their business due to basically death, disease, or disability. Somebody got sick, the spouse can't run the business, and it ends up going on a fire sale, and they lose what they built. And so we really have to help people think about that early on. And they don't ever prepare a business for the unexpected. And look at what happened during the pandemic. So we really need to preserve the value of the business. And when I say preserve the value, I mean, we really have to help them prepare for sale. And most business owners don't realize this is not something that happens overnight. It takes years to preserve the value and get it ready to sell. I call prepare for sale. And then what does this mean to the community at large? I think a lot of times they don't think in terms of the jobs that they provide to the community, the impact they have in the event that they were to close and walk away. So this is very much a process. This is a plan, and it's not just about dumping the business. It's about what are you going to do and how do you maintain the viability of that business and that community, continuing to provide jobs, tax base, and everything else that happens during that time frame. Next slide, please. Thank you. So probably the next big thing is, what are their options? And again, they're as varied as the financing structures we put together, the things we bring to the table every single day. Every single business is different. None of them are the same. There's no recipe that fits every single person. So the big option that they have to decide is, are you passing it on to a family member and or the next generation, and what does that look like? And then, or are you going to sell it? Does none of the family want it and you're just going to put it on the market? Or maybe you have a couple of key employees that want to buy it, or another owner that want to buy it. A lot of what I see lately is the competition buys them. So it ends up being more of a merger, or, you know, the two competitors come together, and the one that wants to exit then has a strategy to get out, and they agree to that strategy. And of course, the dreaded liquidation. We've had some, as most of us seen during the pandemic, there really wasn't a sale for what was left. And due to the uncertainties of the pandemic, I felt bad. A lot of them had to choose, okay, let's just get as much as we can for the underlying assets, and maybe we can sell some of our customers to the competition. And so it was sad because they didn't plan ahead. So I think that's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And then most business owners have a very unrealistic expectation about the business that they own. And every single day somebody comes in and sees me and says, well, you know, we're going to sell our business if I'm working with the sellers, or I want to buy so-and-so's business. You know, I worked for him for 5 years and blah, 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 and I want to buy it now. And only to realize that it's not worth $1 million. It's not even close to $1 million. And so they need to understand the underlying concepts of valuation. What are those 3 main underlying concepts of valuation? Well, it could be based on the underlying assets, the fair market value of those assets, whatever they happen to be. And as we've seen, when you look at valuations, a lot of it is based on income. And when a new buyer comes in to buy, it's really based on income and cash flow, because that's what's going to pay the debt back that they borrow to pay off to the sellers. So they don't get that concept very readily. And the third, big one is market value. So again, now we're looking at comparable sales. So you want to sell your motel that you've owned for 30 years. It's only going to be valued as much as its bottom line and cash flows available And what will the market bear? What has the market bared when it comes to a, 36 unit motel or whatever it happens to be? So they don't really understand that. So a lot of what I do, or what that some of the other SBDC consultants do, is they really kind of take them through this process of valuation. We're not certified in anything. We're taking a look at it from a couple of different perspectives based on those 3 underlying valuations and saying, does any of this make sense? Because it's really all between a willing buyer and a willing seller on that very day. It doesn't mean that it's worth $1 million. And they forget you have to prepare to sell. You don't go through 3 bad years of declining sales and declining profits and wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to put the business up for sale. Isn't that a grand idea, Mom? No, it's not a grand idea. This is something that takes years of preparation. You have to determine leadership. Who's going to be in a leadership position? Who's going to take over the supervisory or management positions? Are those people able to maintain those positions if you're not there? How much impact do you have on the business? What happens when you leave? Do you lose customers? Well, they go elsewhere because there's no longer a relationship with the owner to your customers. So lots of things to think about that when they think about transitioning out, they're not there. And don't forget that this has to be updated. So let's say you choose a 5-year plan. What happens in year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? And all of a sudden in year 2, something happens to your industry. Now you have a problem because something affected the industry overall. And we've seen the pandemic do that, devastating entire industries, while at the same time creating new opportunities for those that were able to take advantage of those opportunities. So they have to review and take a look at where they're at. Are we behind on our continuum? Are we ahead? Are we on target? And they don't consider that. And when you tell somebody this is going to take years, they kind of have a blank look like, you're nuts, right? No, I'm not. You can't just whip it up for sale and hope for the best. Let's go on to the next slide. Let's see. SBDC assistance. So of course, as mentioned early on, we provide that one-on-one, no-cost confidential support to those business owners that are looking at transitioning out. No matter what option they choose, we can usually help them in several different areas. So even if they're going to sell it to a family member, or if they're going to sell it outright in the open market, whatever it happens to be. So they really need to determine whether or not their business is saleable. What is it that they have to sell? Now think about those 3 main valuations. Do you have strong profits, i.e. cash flow? Is this a good and growing industry? If I go into Dig and BizMiner, Vertical IQ, whatever databases you folks use, what's happening? Does it show any growth in that industry, or is it stagnant, or is it going backwards even? What do your assets look like? If I ask for a detailed depreciation schedule, am I going to see that you haven't made any investments in the last 10 years? Or have you made investments in the last 3 to 5 years? That dictates a lot about the fair market value of the underlying assets. If I have a bunch of old stuff, I can't convince a lender to provide the seller or the buyer with financing when the assets are from 20 years ago. The useful life is gone. So yeah, the fair market value of that asset probably isn't very good. And again, we always have to talk about my nemesis, inventory. Those of you that know me say inventory is evil, very, very evil. So, what do you got? Is it dusty? Is it dirty? Is it not in saleable condition? And why are you expecting the buyer to buy all that old stuff? That's not a realistic expectation. So I try to help buyers wrap their head around the fact that this is not doable. You're not going to be able to convince somebody to buy $100,000 of old dusty merchandise because nobody wants a smiley face on a sweatshirt anymore. I'm sorry, those days are gone. So you got to look at that inventory really, really hard. And that's really difficult for owners because as you all know, they think they're sitting on this really, really great inventory, even though they haven't been able to sell much of it in the past 5 years. So not good. Now you got to figure out a way to get rid of it. The new buyer doesn't want it. So you're going to put it on a fire sale and try to get rid of it and turn it into cash before you leave? Or are you going to saddle it with the new owner and negotiate 10 cents on the dollar? It's lots of options. Again, we're all over the board, folks. You have good customer base. You know, do you have good repeat customers? That's the good old 80-20 rule. So we try to determine, we look at sales by customer to see what's going on with that customer base and if they're loyal or not. And then, of course, all of you know my little tagline, is your balance sheet healthy or do you have the financial flu? So again, unfortunately, with the pandemic, we got a lot of people that are kind of down and out with the long-term flu even. So they took on, you know, the idle loans. They took on other things that they maybe even haven't gotten PPP forgiveness yet, which again, you got to get on that, folks. You should have got that done before. So it's helping people through all those things that really brings them to the point of a good plan. And that all starts with, let's take a look at your saleable business. What have you got to offer to a potential buyer? And then let's see. Oh, you can also talk about saleable. We mentioned that in health check, but this is really an eye opener for owners. They don't want this kind of blasted on them, especially when you get down to some of your coffee shops. You know, I just went through the coffee shop with debacle with one of my clients. The seller thinks she's sitting on this great business and the buyer says it doesn't cash flow. There's no way I can pay you that kind of purchase price. And so they came to a compromise, but it was a really, really hard swallow on the part of the seller because they were convinced that this is what it was. And the good thing was on phone, I think they would have smacked me because it got just that heated that I was wrong. And they were so right that it was worth this. And had to have that tough conversation. Thank goodness she didn't take an idle loan, so we didn't have to worry about an unhealthy balance sheet. And she did show consecutive years of retained earnings. You know, she did have some earnings that she was reinvesting, and it looked good. You know, and then don't forget, folks, you can only do 90 days of receivables. So I'm working on a business sale buy right now, buy sell, and there's too many receivables over 90, and the lenders aren't gonna, no, don't even buy those, you know. So now we're having a bit of a tiff over this in the last week or so, because I'm working with the buyer saying, you don't want those. They're not financeable. Don't take them. And of course, the seller doesn't want to deal with them. Remember, this is all a process. It's not a one-time event that you just wake up in the morning and say, we're going to sell today. You know, we really have to go through all these steps, and these steps don't happen quickly. And in the event that the business suffered from a pandemic or a downturn in the industry, whatever it is, we have to have 2 good years. Because when they go in, the buyers, to do a loan, if I show 2 years or declining sales, the bank gets an immediate butterfly in their belly and we're not going anywhere. I got one with 4 consecutive years of downturn in sales, and the lender's telling me, I can't go there, Pam. How can you project? What's the change going to be? So when I get year end 21, we could be on year number 5. This business is not positioned for sale. It's no. So, and there again, you know, we're always here to help you strategize with the sellers. They may be seeking out our services and or the prospective buyers. So we work with both sides, typically not the same consultant. So a lot of times I'll be working with the buyer and another one of our consultants is working with the seller. And then I also do a lot with them about the allocation of purchase price. There's just a lot of trips and triggers there. So be very, very careful. If you're not familiar with that, reach out to me and I can talk you through that if you get in that situation. The allocation of purchase price occurs in the purchase agreement. And most of the time we have adversarial relationships. The sellers want this way, the buyer wants this way due to future depreciation and financing, and we get this head knocking going on. So It's very critical that when a buyer is buying, that they buy smart and they don't buy what I call wasted assets that you can't use for financing. Non-compete, goodwill, all that's just junk. And you can inflate the price, but we need to look at the hard underlying assets that create benefits for the buyer. Of course, the seller doesn't want that. So you get that little, adversary relationship going on. Let's see, on to the next slide. We have an example. So you can read this at your leisure. Basically, it's about a woman that was working in the family business part-time starting at 16. That's kind of the stories of our service area. And then she decided, she maybe went away, got a degree. A lot of our children of our business owners go out and get a degree somewhere, may even work for someone else for a time period before they come back and say, okay, I'm ready to start looking at purchasing your business. And I think there's some key takeaways if you kind of look through this little example. And the first thing is this took years. She did not waltz in the day she graduated from St. Cloud State and say, okay, I'm buying you tomorrow. It didn't work that way. And she did a really, really important thing, which a lot of my buyers or family members seldom do. And that is she worked in multiple key roles in the business. So she was gaining respect from the employees. When you come in and you take over as the CEO or the CFO or the COO or whatever it is in a company with 250 employees, immediately the radar goes up on the people. And they're going, oh, she's a family member, so she's going to do this, that, and the other thing. And they take an immediate dislike to you. But she went in and worked alongside of those people in multiple areas of the company to gain trust and to gain respect that she's just not getting the company because she's a family member. Great takeaway. And when I talk to companies about that, they kind of roll their eyes, but I said, it's a very real perception. And the perception of the employees is real. You need to understand that. Same thing with creating a team. A lot of times I've got a child coming into the business, buying in, and they want to create their own team. And the 64-year-old CFO that's getting ready to retire is not part of their team. And so we have to figure out ways to very carefully create that team. And that doesn't happen overnight. We're creating a team that's going to take this child that has worked in multiple departments to be successful and then transition to that team. So what does that look like? Because they want to do new and different things. They don't want to change everything overnight, but they've got specific ideas how to increase sales with customers, increase product offerings. And what does that do? And what does that analysis look like when you start talking about product offerings? It's creation of a team. And what many children or buyers don't understand, not necessarily children, is growth is critical when you buy. You have to have a strategy for growth. And you're saying to me, what do you mean? What I mean is status quo is not going to cut the mustard. You want to eliminate that debt and that short-term and long-term debt as fast as you can to put money in your pocket and reinvest in the company. And if you spend too much time and you don't have a plan for growth in sales and bottom line, you can't get that business where it needs to be. And you can't go get a loan. What have you just done? You have leveraged all the assets of the business in order to purchase it along with your investment. So if a machine goes down or you want to get the new widget that's out in the market to help you be more efficient, fast, whatever it happens to be, you've kind of locked yourself in a place where you can't do that. You can't get more access to financing. So again, I'm telling people, please think about the growth and where is it going to come from? Because that's how you're going to repay the sellers. And that's how you're going to be able to run the company. My last little, please help us at the SBDC level is be proactive. Don't sit back and wait for the business owners to come to you. If you know that Joe and Sally Schmo have this business and she's 67 and he turns 70 next year, we got to get them in a plan. We got to be proactive and approach them and start asking questions about what their plan is. Have they thought about it? Have they seeked out resources? Have they talked to professionals, whoever that is in their mind? It takes years to really prepare the business to sell. If you sell it too fast, you're losing the overall wealth of the business owners. They aren't able to capture the wealth because they're doing it too quickly, too fast, and they didn't plan for it. And almost every one of my succession plans involves some type of seller financing. Not always, but a lot of them. So what does that mean? That means you now are in second, third, fourth, fifth position. And if that person is not successful, you have lost your value. You've lost your nest egg that you work so hard for. So we got to be proactive as clients come in and things happen in your communities. Please be proactive and start talking with them, start talking with their management teams, whatever it happens to be, because this takes years. The ones that do it right take years to prepare. And with that, I noticed some questions popping up. Does anybody, you want to do questions now about this, or do we wait till the end?
If it's okay, I think we'll wait till the end. We're almost there. We're on slide 13 to 15.
Oh,
Yep.
good idea.
Yep.
So also sharing that Deed did award the North Central SBDC $400,000 through their most recent small business partnership grant program. And we're happy to share that an activity to be supported through these Deed grant funds is expert business transition planning, both group training and one-on-one assistance. We did sign this grant contract last week, and more information will soon be available. Email me if you would like to stay updated on this topic. So in summary, the North Central SBDC is real people helping real businesses. Whether you're starting out or seeking to sell, the SBDC can help you navigate every turn at every stage of your business. Remember, it is a certainty that every business will be sold or liquidated at some point. If you own a business, transition planning applies to you. A good transition plan will help a transition occur on your own terms. And again, we're planning for those 5 dreaded Ds: death, disease, disability, divorce, and dependency. Planning through understanding valuation and the business finance health checkup can help an owner create, harvest, and preserve the value of a business, as well as maximize the value for the owner and their financial security and well-being upon exit. I think it's important, as well as Pam emphasized too, that within North Central Minnesota, within the 5 ECRDC counties, we're comprised of small communities. Transition planning recognizes the broader stakeholders in a business and its success, and small businesses are very critical to our rural economies. They provide jobs, critical goods and services, and are part of the fabric of our communities. So connect with the North Central SBDC now for one-on-one, no-cost assistance from a professional business consultant with business transition planning. And stay tuned for more information soon about additional training opportunities. Now, I guess we're happy to answer questions now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
That'd be good. Then I can see the things a little bit better. So before we get into the questions that were typed in the chat, I do have a question. And either Pam or Rebecca, but Pam had mentioned, you know, the value of the business, evaluating the value of the business. You know, it's worth $1 million to the seller, you know, maybe not so much. But especially in a service industry, you know, you don't have a lot of overhead necessarily. You have a service business with little overhead. You know, how do you work that valuation out? Is it just by the balance sheet? And then 2, have you ever seen where a potential buyer and seller agree to you mentioned the loss of businesses. Obviously that definitely could happen in the service industry on a change of hands. So do you also put a calculation formula in there in case the business, you do lose 20%?
Well, I can answer some of that for you, Mark. You got to realize that the more the owner is dependent, the business is dependent on the owner, the less the value. So good example that you're talking about is a hair salon. So I worked with a couple of hair salons, and unfortunately, I mean, they're worth the stuff. Because when this salon owner leaves, guess what happens to the customer base? It leaves with her. I've been having my hair cut by the same lady for 40 years, and I don't want to deal with Susie Q over here. I'm going to go back to this gal. So now we have to worry about not compete. And how long does she stay around, or does she not stay around? Because I'm the new salon owner. I want her customers to come to me. And a salon is the most difficult thing to sell because it's dependent on Betty. Betty's been this salon hair lady forever. Her customer base is strong, but when she goes, or if you're working with the current salon and one of the stylists decide to leave, oh my God, we get an immediate drop in sales because she basically took her customers and went home or went off her way. So those businesses, the valuation is very, very low. So, most of you maybe remember the old days where we used multipliers and all this other happy stuff. And almost all of that has kind of gone away. And especially if the business is dependent on the owner to maintain customers. Now, a lot of them transition. So it tends to be a little better. But yeah, Mark, it's really hard. I mean, look at my coffee lady. I mean, oh man, she was just hot, roaring mad because she thought she could get all this money for building the business. Oh, darn. No. And then her husband called me. He was even more upset. How can you say this? Because stop and think. You can go over to A to Z Equipment, pick up everything you need, used, go online, lease the space, start up a coffee shop, and you can steal all her customers. It's just the reality of those types of businesses, whether it be a service or something small like coffee shops. Salons are tough. When you get into bigger businesses, if there's a book of business with the customers, they're basically buying the customer list is what they're buying. And we just got to make sure that the customers don't leave. A lot of them, the clauses in the purchase agreement will have a clause that says, about maintaining the customer base. And if it drops so far, then there's a corresponding decrease in the selling price because they may go away. So I've only seen that a handful of times, but it's an option. So
you mentioned something that kind of will lead into one of the questions in the chat from Linda, and as you mentioned the stylist, now that somebody new took over and you have another stylist on board and they leave. So Linda wanted to know, do you recommend having valuable employees sign an agreement to stay on after the sale for a certain period of time?
You certainly can try. I've had some of mine do that where they agree to stay on or they agree to work for the new owner. But they don't hold any water. I mean, they're never going to stand up in a court of law. So as much as I cross my fingers and hope this is going to work, I never know. You just never know. I mean, it really would be nice, but the new owner has to have a relationship with the existing stylists. And that's why I like it when the new stylist comes in and she maybe works there for 2, 3, 4 years. Then she decides to buy out Betty and Betty exits stage right. And now she has a relationship with all the other stylists and they aren't going to just jump up one day and grab their clients and go home. So, but, you have to have an awfully strong employment agreement and you're buying the assets of the business. Very seldom are you buying the stock of the business. And because those are two different transactions with different tax ramifications and the concept of employment agreements, you really have to be careful. So That's just my word to the wise. I'm not going to practice law and I don't pretend to, but I can tell you, you might get in a little bit of trouble. So see an attorney.
So your Class B attorney's license is expired?
Oh yeah, pretty much. So is my A and my C.
All right, next question. How do you feel about the seller with one set of books on the tax return and then tells the potential buyer that there is a much more cash flow? It says here, I was working with the buyer saying danger. How do the banks feel about that?
Ah, yes, the ongoing saga of 2 sets of books. So here's what I tell them. Your tax return rules. And I can't tell the bank this tax return is fraudulent because now they don't want to be involved in this transaction. And I can't tell the sellers that you got to use these books over here that are really the real ones because the tax return is the gospel. So if sellers, whoever they are, business owners want to play this game, play it all you want, but it's not going to get you value. It's not going to get you a buyer. And when I spread those tax returns, they tell me a whole lot about what's going on. So I usually spread 3 to 5 years when I'm working with a buyer and or a seller, if I'm helping them position the business for sale. And if you've been mucking around, making a mess of things to save 10 cents on tax, I always tell somebody preparing for sale, if you're going through your transition, your succession plan, you need to put your business hat on and get the tax hat off. Forget income taxes. If you got to pay 10 cents in, if you're paying tax, you're making money. So pay the tax, pay Uncle Sam right now, get a better value for your business because you can defend it now. You got better profits, better cash flows, better everything. And now I can get financing for it. If you're going to play that game and put all the dog food under supplies and repair your house and put it under repairs and do all these other things, and then try to tell these 2 kids that are trying to buy it that, well, you know, repairs and maintenance is padded and all this other stuff. I can't tell a lender that. And oh, by the way, I don't want to hear it either, because now I know you filed a fraudulent return. And if I'm really getting my goat going, I'll call the preparer at the bottom of the return and say, you did a horrible disservice to your client, letting them pad repairs and supplies and cogs. Anyway, don't get me on my soapbox. I'll get off.
I see that might have been a little touchy subject there. All right, moving on. How many businesses sell through a broker? What percentage of the sale does the broker usually take?
So business brokers are a lot higher. Your typical home is at 6% in most realtor transactions, but your business brokers can be anywhere from 7 to 12 in my experience, and some can even be higher depending on what they do for you. I worked with one business. I felt bad that he signed on with a broker. The broker gave him all these fluffy 40 pages worth of reports. I condensed it into 1 page, and here's the skinny dude. It's right here, you know? And so I felt bad. I said, you have 2 options. Either you go back and try to renegotiate with the broker, or you let the contract drain out, don't entertain any offers or say yes, and go back about your business. And in the end, he kind of let it dry out. They wouldn't negotiate with him. They also wouldn't give him his upfront feedback. So he learned a rather valuable lesson at the end of his trail. And then I said, I think your greatest opportunity, because he invested in a lot in leasehold improvements, about $230,000 in leasehold improvements, and he didn't stay there long enough to recoup the improvements, which again, I wasn't there at the beginning. And so I said, the people that know the value of those improvements are other restaurateurs. So you need to look in our community and see who fits what you do, you know, not this fit, who really fits and gets your restaurant concept and would really understand the value of $250,000 or whatever it was in leasehold improvements. And so he entertained offers from 3 competitors, and it was very fun. And he got nice money for what he did. So
Nice.
unfortunately, the broker was an unfortunate situation.
So going back to the employee question, keeping employees on, what if you pay the employee to stay? Do they hold water then if you have I'm taking it, Linda, you're talking about, above and beyond, and, as long as you stay for 3 more months, we'll give you the bonus structure and profit sharing. And, if you have that, are you more locked in?
I would like to be able to say yes, but no. I just had a long conversation with an HR person. I said, so how's this bonus thing going? Everybody, you can see all these ads, get $1,000 sign-on bonus, get a $3,000 sign-on bonus. And she goes, they don't work at all. They don't work. People do not change their job for sign-on bonuses. She goes, it just doesn't work. And so I worked with a company that tried to do that. They said, okay, if you commit to this, and actually it was when I was at the college, we had some companies that wanted to get those interns or people, students, graduates to come to them. So they came early before graduation back in February, March. They were graduating in May and said, did a rah about you should come to work for us. And oh, by the way, if you come to work for us, we'll pay your tuition. And then we'll give you also $1,000 upon your first 90 days employment. And it was dismal. It was just dismal. I had about 4 companies we did that with. One company was successful in getting two students. So when I looked at the amount of time and energy expended and the outcomes, I don't see it as a viable option. I don't know, that didn't happen yesterday or today. That happened probably 5-6 years ago. So maybe things have changed. The HR person I talked to this fall said those sign-on bonuses don't work. It doesn't entice people to come to work at that location or business or industry or whatever. Employment contracts are tough, really, really tough in my experience. Seek out an attorney because the employment contract is only as good as the enforcement provisions. So if you can't enforce it, it's no good. You can probably scare them that way. I'm all for scaring somebody to stay, but is that the kind of employee you want? A scared one? Looking over their shoulder all the time?
All right. I'll refrain from commenting on that one. The board chair of East Central Energy happens to be in the audience tonight, so I can't comment on that one. I was going to make a joke, Linda, as you know. So during the last few years with the pandemic, what are you seeing business values do? Greater multiples, less? A relationship between business values and number of staff situation related to the shortage of staff everywhere. The big $1 million question that's on everybody's mind. What are business values doing? And what about the staffing shortage?
So if you're directing it at me, the question, I can tell you one thing, it was by industries. So, typically in a year, I would do a resort, maybe 2 resorts. And during the pandemic, they were coming out of the woodwork. Resorters sold unbelievably in masses. They exited the market like there was, migrating birds on a good day. I mean, it was unbelievable. And they were getting their prices. I mean, I couldn't get them to come down. No, I want 1.2 and I'm not going to come down. Or I want 1.5 and 1.2 is my bottom line. Take the restaurant or leave it, or the resort. Then I had another, and I had a lot of people from out of state, Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri, out west, Utah. I mean, these people were not Minnesotanites. And they came and they bought these resorts mostly to get it out of Dodge, to get out of these big cities that they didn't like. They're afraid of COVID. They took hard looks at their lives and said, I don't like this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Some of them were able to keep their jobs and work from the northern Minnesota resort. So one of them I did, she can continue to work. Lots of seller financing going on, folks. Lots of seller financing. So those resorters were getting a piece of bank financing, but they were carrying a lot of paper back. So there wasn't very many deals where there wasn't paper coming back. Those just took off. My machine shops, anything to do with manufacturing, if they could get raw material, they took off. I mean, unbelievably so. Things just skyrocketed. Things that took dives were restaurants. You can't give them away. Sales were falling. Nobody would finance them. They help shortages. The marine industry, everything took off during the pandemic, no help. So either you raise your prices or you don't shrink wrap boats. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Either you pay the $20 the kid wants or you don't do shrink wrap. They didn't like that answer. Then we got creative. A lot of people called me and said, oh, I got to find so-and-so and this, that, and the other thing. I said, well, call the shop teacher at the high school. Get his ace in the hole welder kid to come over and work for you. I said, a high school kid, their eyes will glaze over when you tell them they're going to make $15 an hour or $18 an hour or whatever it is, because nobody else will work. So we did a lot of that. College students, you take a starving college student that doesn't have to be a server and tell them they can do XYZ in a company, they'll flock to you. It was industry specific. The pandemic was very industry specific. It harmed these industries and these industries all took off. So anything to do with the outdoors took off. My guys that rented stuff, I don't care what they rented, whether it's construction equipment, do-it-yourself equipment, recreational equipment. My, boat people that rented boats and pontoons and speedboats and jet skis and, oh man, just roof overnight, everything was reserved. And then people call, so they're buying boats, so then they're calling me saying, Pam, I got to get 3 more pontoons. I need 180 grand, blah, blah, blah. So then we're trying to figure out how to finance 3 more pontoons or more jet skis or whatever. Anything related to the outdoors took off. The resorts got hit really hard at the beginning when the pandemic was scary. And then all of a sudden, about the middle of June, the reservations came back and they took off. So I thought they were going to get hit really hard, but they ended up closing their food services. So most of the resorts would fill, but they had limited food. So food was related to Friday, Saturday, Sunday or something. There was no Monday through Thursday food. A lot of my big supper clubs or the little bit better dining establishments, they had to close two days a week at minimum. So a lot of them, they kind of pivoted that way. It was really industry specific from my perspective. And those that could grab opportunities, take a job, they do. I mean, the small new wedding, I had big wedding vans and I said, no, do something small. Can you make a small investment and do something small? The 25 and under, 15 under, they skyrocketed. Overnight, those businesses took off. I mean, my bed and breakfasts died on the vine, done. So, yep, I bet you we got, I can't tell you how many bed and breakfasts I talked to that just said, I'm going to have to close. And I said, I don't know where your customers are going to come from. This pandemic is going to, rear its ugly head. Maybe you want to think about something else. The people that went to events, my event vendors, they took hits. And you're with a food truck or, any person that went to festivals and events, they took a hit pretty hard. Unless they could find a different way to do it. Can you go to the local manufacturer? Can you set up in the parking lot and sell lunch? I don't know. You got to think outside the box. So that was I don't have the answer. If I had the answer, I wouldn't be here this evening.
You'd be on the beach with me sipping this margarita here. Absolutely. Rebecca, there is a message from Janelle about somebody emailing her, please, for the SBDC succession planning. Can you handle
Did
that?
respond to that. And so I directed Janelle to Lorraine Ross, who is the program coordinator for the Central SBDC. And we'll be able to provide her the best point of contact within the Central SBDC, providing business transition planning assistance.
Awesome. Thank you. Any further questions for Pam or Rebecca? Hearing, seeing none, ladies, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here tonight and hope you'll stick around. case we have a couple of follow-up questions since John's presentation is hinged upon yours. Or is a good lead in to yours, I guess, is how
Yeah.
the clip went. So
Yeah,
John, you queued up and ready to go?
sure. I'm queued up. I did have a presentation. A lot of it is similar or the same stuff that that was in the previous presentation. So I won't go over that stuff. And so which is great, especially for Sandy, who's probably seen me do this a couple of times in the past anyway. But yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm John Bennett. I'm with Extension. I've met some of you before, and I work for a place called the Center for Community Vitality. And we do, well, why don't I share my screen? What the heck? Sorry, I wasn't planning on. Okay, that didn't work, did it? I'll just do that. Sorry, it's not in presentation mode. Is everyone able to see my screen with on there? Looks good.
We have your screen up.
Great. Well, fantastic. Well, yeah, again, my name is John Bennett. I'm with the Center for Community Vitality. And we started getting kind of into the business succession world 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago. Former colleague of mine, Liz Templin, who retired a couple of years ago, started getting this stuff done. And we noticed initially, Extension does a lot of work in the agriculture field and a lot of work with farm businesses. And we heard from the part of Extension that does work with ag businesses. They were saying, hey, we're offering a farm business transition course. We offer it once a year or we offer it twice a year. And we're starting to notice that a lot of the businesses that are signing up have nothing to do with agriculture, but there's not a whole lot of resources that are out there for businesses who want to think about transitioning. And so they said, you guys should be aware of that in your center, just because we do a lot of the work with small businesses and economic development and so forth. So, at the same time, a lot of the work that we do is Main Street development type work, retail, trade analysis, and a lot of economic developers were saying, hey, we're sort of noticing that a lot of the business owners on Main Street are baby boomers or they're near baby boomers, and they're not sure what's going to happen with their business. And we're concerned as a community, that we're going to have even more empty storefronts that we have now. And what do we do? So we did some research. The bottom line is we did some research, but my center we do a lot of work with business retention and expansion. So we try and come up with ideas to reduce the number of businesses that end up having to close up shop, or they were not able to be retained, or they maybe decided to move to a new location. We kind of help come up with community strategies to help keep them here. And so we started doing a lot of thinking about, there's a lot of individual people that know a whole lot or know something about business transition, but there's not a whole lot out there in terms of programs and opportunities. And so, and we also know that we know through our survey, through our research, that business owners don't have business. Not only do they not have a transition plan, they don't have business plans as well, which is sort of a big problem. If you don't have, and Pam knows this certainly better than I do, but if you don't have any kind of a business plan, writing your succession plan, or you're figuring out how you're going to transition is going to be just that much harder. So in 2016, 2017, I'm going to be jumping around here because I don't want to go through all my slides, but there's a couple of things I do want you to see. So what we did is we gathered a group of people, 5 years ago, and we put together a survey that we sent out to businesses who had successfully transitioned, and were still open a few years after that. And we wanted to ask them questions about what worked well and what did not work well, to kind of help think, how do we sort of pinpoint or come up with a strategy, some kind of strategy to help keep these businesses here. So this was not done, the research was not put together just by the university, in the ivory tower. We got folks, business brokers, the Federal Reserve Bank, business valuation folks, et cetera, to kind of help with this. Oh, I've got a 6-year-old. This is what happens when you do stuff at night. We've got a George. Okay, I'm in the middle of something right now. Okay, pal. Okay, you need to go upstairs, please.
And bounce my basketball.
And bounce your basketball upstairs.
Can I do it?
I apologize. I apologize for that. So we did
Is
this.
this the darling child that has his own Facebook page?
Yeah, yes, I do. My son is a little famous. He's been on commercials for St. Luke's up here, which is the hospital, and telling some stories. So I don't know if you get those St. Luke's commercials, but yeah, that's my son George. He is. There was some big billboards around town, and so anyway, he's well, both he and his sister are characters. I'm really sorry about that. So we ended up doing this research to kind of move the needle just a little bit, and we did. After that, my colleagues and I started talking about the business succession and transition, what we learned from our research around the state, and which was great. It was a great first step, but there still was not much that was being done. Eventually, we ended up convening sort of a, okay, now, thank you, honey. Now my daughter's down here. I don't know what my wife is doing up there. So the sad part is that my mother-in-law is up there too, and they said they knew, don't come down while dad's in his office. We put together an ecosystem of other sort of public agencies or organizations that do this, are sort of in this world, or they want to do more, including us, but we didn't know exactly what to do. So we created a business succession and transition ecosystem. We started it this past year. So all these organizations that are sort of working in this field a little bit, we can kind of, nobody wants to, this isn't really a turf issue. Nobody really wants to, be going it alone. So the state chamber, Minnesota Center for Employee Ownership, the St. Thomas Family Business Center, and of course DEED and the SBDCs got together, and we're talking about kind of next steps and plans. But one thing we did initially is we were holding community-based workshops with economic development folks and trying to come up with strategies to connect business owners with resources. At the same time, we ended up getting a grant from the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation to develop a curriculum and a workbook. And we did this with, it took a while to find someone. We did it. We put together a curriculum and a workbook with a private business consultant. They're called Vision One, and they provide services to businesses. They're located in the metro area, services to businesses that are planning on going through a transition to help them plan for that. Just because I don't know, I do economic development work, but I don't know the nuts and bolts of how this stuff happens. Now I have a little bit of a better idea, but I'm no Pam, and so I can't, I haven't done this. My job is to kind of think about this from a more macro level and adult education. But so we did a pilot course a couple of years ago in Southeast Minnesota with a few different communities, and we put together this course for business succession, and we offered it. We've offered it 2 times so far. Once in southeast Minnesota, and I did one up in Cook County. just this past year. And it's going through a curriculum or a workbook and a class, and we meet every week. And or with that last one, we met every other week, and we go through material and learn about business succession and transition. And then during the off weeks, the business would meet with either an EDA person to help kind of work on the progress with their workbook, or they up in Cook County, Pat Campanero is the local small business development consultant. She was part of the course and helped businesses during those off weeks. So now we're starting a course, and we're going to be offering it statewide for the first time, and it's happening on March 1st. I want to send I hope that this is gonna work. I think I have to stop sharing if I want to send. No, I don't have to. I want to send a chat. You know what? I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen so I can share this in the chat. And if this doesn't work, let me know and I can show you. But I can show you what this looks like. But this is a we're offering a course that's happening starting on March 3rd, and we just got the registration up and running, so we're hoping that people start to sign up soon for that. Here we go. I am going to share this. So anyway, we've got a marketing flyer, and we're looking for businesses, and it's a course that's going to take business owners sort of all the way through the process of learning about how to do a transition from soup to nuts. So this might be something that will, something that every business owner wants to take or should need to take at whatever point that they are with their business cycle. As Pam and Rebecca noted earlier, these 5 Ds that can happen. It's not just baby boomers that we need to be thinking about in rural Minnesota. It's it's everyone. And so what I try and tell communities and business owners is that this is it's sort of like having insurance for your business. Pam was talking about this. You need this because you don't want to be put in a position where you've got to create a fire sale and have to do things on really short notice. And what I've noticed just in the few years that I've been involved in doing this kind of work is there's a whole heck of a lot of information out there that business owners have not thought of. And most business owners, certainly those who have gone through the class, sort of have they thought maybe their business was worth more than it actually is. And so once they start looking at the valuation and how to do that, there's a little bit of a sort of it's kind of like a wake-up call, but it's a little scary, and they know, like, hey, this might actually take more time than I thought, and hey, it's really important that we show that we know how to make money, because that's gonna just make our business that much more more attractive to a potential buyer. So yeah, we are we wanted to get the word out about this course that's coming up here, and yeah, it's great. We're going to be offering this probably a few times a year, and yeah, and right now the plan is for it to be 5 weeks. It's $500 for the class, but that's sort of a steal. I think, if you look at what it costs to work with many consultants out there, it costs a bit more. So we're trying to find a way that how can we put together an educational training that's accessible to businesses that don't, they're not doing $6-7 million in sales every year, and they may not have the money that they need to do that, or they may not have an SBDC consultant who's able to do the work that they need to do. So yeah, I've got a question about families. Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. It's very appropriate for families to take this course. In fact, it's encouraged. So if you do, we're multiple family, if you've got 3 or 4 family members that are interested in taking the course because they're learning about this together, that's great. And so we're fully expecting and hoping that you know, a father-daughter or mother-son combination of seller and potential buyer might occur. Or sometime when we were up in Cook County, there was a couple of businesses where the kids weren't interested in it, but the nephew was really interested in it. But they weren't sure to how to even approach the thinking about how to sell their business. So this is not something that's, you know, we're trying to get the word out about this opportunity, which is pretty much just more, it's an organized way to go through learning about the resources that are out there, but also what's important to them. So there's sort of the personal side of selling a business, whether you're ready personally. Some things that were surprising to me, you know, with this is that owners weren't thinking about things like, you know, what do they need for their own retirement? So we've got a week in here like, well, let's think about your own personal financial planning. What do you need to do to live during retirement, and how much money are you gonna need to get out of this? Or are you gonna need to find another job? Or also the number of business owners who sell their business and later find out that they need to do some type of like mental health counseling, because selling your business can be really, really depressing for a lot of people, especially if it's a business that you've built yourself. And some have told me it sort of feels like I lost my child, which I've never owned a business, and so I can't relate, but I can certainly try and empathize with that. So yeah, I think that's all I have. I'll send. Here's another link to a website, our extensions website, where it'll bring you to the registration. But feel free to send questions to me if you have them, or I think Michael's my colleague in extension, and you can send him an email as well. But yeah, we're looking for course participants for our March 3rd class. And yeah, that's all I got. Pam and Rebecca did the hard work for me, in that usually I have to convince people that this is something that they should think is important. And I didn't have to do any of that stuff today. So you sort of made my job easy. We're great friends and partners with the SBDC folks out there, the Entrepreneur Fund, all these other consultants and organizations that are doing this work. So we're hopeful that people will want to kind of come on board and encourage businesses that they're working with or maybe working with to do this as well. So that's all I've got.
Great. John, where are you located?
Oh, sorry, I should have started with that. I'm in Duluth, actually. So yeah,
I got the hint of that in the beginning, and as a former Superior, right, buckle down and keep warm tonight, because it's going to be a lot colder there than it is down here with the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, it is cold. I live in tropical South Duluth. Not too many people know about tropical South Duluth. They tend to stay on the east side. So we're sitting pretty down here along the riverbanks.
You're close enough to the lake then that you actually do get a little bit of reprieve from the cold, believe it or not. But heck of a place to visit in the summer too, folks. If it's 90 degrees, I guarantee you John's probably sitting at about 47, 52, somewhere in there with that nice breeze off the lake.
That's right.
The iceberg.
Yep, that's right. Come on up. The water is just fine. Sandy, yes, this new course that's going to be offered, it's a statewide offering, and so yes, anyone is able to take it. We'll probably just keep it open to Minnesota or border states if there's people initially, and who knows if you know, it's designed for business owners from Minnesota, but we haven't really talked about whether we'd turn someone down if they came from a different state. But we're sort of serving our own here first.
And having lived on the flatland side, I still don't find the appeal of driving up and down those hills in the winter in Duluth. I still can't understand why anybody would want to do that.
You know what? People mention that all the time, and it's when you grow up with it, it's just I've never once thought about it. You just learn how to drive down a hill in the snow.
Oh yeah, you learn how. I grew up with it too, but you learn how. But you still. I just, I'm on the Superior side looking at the other side with all the snow covered and thinking, nah, I don't need to go there today.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it's a good reason to just stay home sometimes.
Yeah. Questions for John? Janelle wanted to know, is your program available virtual or in person? John?
This will be virtual. So it starts March 3rd. And the first 2 times we offered the course, we met and then we took a week off for business owners to do their homework during those weeks and meet with the SBDC consultant and then come back. This one we're gonna, because we don't have SBDC consultants tied to this one, we're gonna try to push through and do it in 5 weeks and hopefully do it in just over a month. Pat, sorry, one more thing. Yeah, Pat Campanero, if any of you, I know some of you are with SBDC, like she could tell you more about this from her experience. What she had mentioned was, yeah, she thinks that it should be a requirement for any business owner who wants to, or who's going to need to sell their business. Not that I'm trying to give ourselves a pat on the back, but yeah, the only person who has not finished the course out of all the business owners is someone who actually was a B&B owner in Grand Marais, and she was a single mom with 2 kids, really struggling, was sort of thinking she was just going to close shop, and she ended up having a purchase agreement on her business 4 or 5 weeks into the class, and she dropped out after that. So anyway, it's good.
Janelle,
Thank you.
Janelle, can you come off of mute? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there regarding the entities having an apprenticeship program.
So I have been looking for the last year or 2 to find somebody who would apprentice under me to take over my business. And I wondered if there was anything available through deed or small business development or whatever, if anybody knew of anything like that, or if there's anything out there like that.
Centralized College has an apprenticeship program. What type of business are you in? What industry?
Newspaper publishing.
Oh, yep, that's going to be a tough one because we don't have that program at CLC. So not sure. That might be a 4-year school question.
Okay, thanks.
I was going to say, Janelle, give me a call tomorrow. We help folks sell businesses from time to time. We'll put together a flyer and some of that. If you're looking for somebody to come on board for management with an opportunity for ownership, we could probably put together a nice flyer and try to get that out to folks.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you my cell phone. Give me a shout tomorrow on my cell.
Okay.
And we can.
Are you putting it in the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Another happy customer. Great. Any further questions here tonight for any of the participants? Any of the presenters?
I just have a quick question for John. How many times do you think you're going to offer this course this year?
Plan is to offer it 3 times a year. I mean, we'll see how the demand works. Rebecca and I were talking earlier about potentially doing something. We were talking about what would it look like if we did more regional approaches to the course. But yeah, statewide offerings, our plan is to do it 3 times per year.
Okay. Hey, I just wanted to thank you all tonight. Pam, you kept me so engaged. Good job.
Always good when it's real life stories and situations and experience, is it not? Yeah, I was just at a meeting in Wisconsin last week, and there was some sales pitches and things like that, but then some presenters talked about, real life situations, and boy, that was much more audience engagement when it's real life experience. So with that, any further questions? If not, we have 4 minutes before 7:30, which would bring us to the hour and a half. And we have just a small handful of people that have not spoken or not made an introduction. So let's go. Heidi, I'm going to pick on you because I know you met with a crew from East Central today, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm Heidi. I'm the Kanabec County EDA Director. And yes, we did. We're one of many counties and communities that ECE leadership has reached out to talk about the potential broadband endeavor that ECE might be entering. And we had a huge crowd at our meeting. I know that wasn't the intent of ECE staff to have, a room full of people, but our board chair insisted upon it. So we had to call a special meeting of our county commissioners. And then Jerry Tweet was there. Jerry is on the ECE board, and Jerry is also on the Kanabec County EDA. And then we had our broadband consultant and our GIS person. Basically just we're talking about broadband and for the region, I guess. Obviously we're focused on Kanabec County. But yeah, it was a great meeting, and I think our county commissioners were extremely educated and they were very engaged. They were asking a lot of questions, which made me very happy because we're trying to get over that hill of a true understanding of how important broadband is to our county, and how broadband is definitely infrastructure like electricity and natural gas, etc. So we are, we're excited. Sorry, I went off on a broadband tangent, which is totally unrelated to this meeting, but you brought it up.
I know I wasn't looking for the shameless plug. I was just saying I picked on you as being the first one because I know you had a meeting today. But thanks for the little pitch, and we can definitely answer more questions on that if people would like. There's not much to tell other than we're kicking the tire, so to speak. And Linda's nodding her head, so I know I didn't say anything I wasn't supposed to. Michelle, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, Michelle Thomas with the East Central Regional Development Commission. The big thing we're working on is, or that we have submitted lately, is a grant to the federal government for some of the ARPA dollars for the travel tourism and outdoor recreation grants. So we're kind of waiting on pins and needles, hoping that comes through.
Nice, thank you. Janelle, I know you spoke, but you want to come off mute and actually kind of maybe introduce yourself, and I'll bet you have something to do with the newspaper.
Yeah. Yes, I do. My name is Janelle Vompna. I'm a publisher of Central. I have two Central Minnesota, used to be weeklies, but we've cut back to every other week in the last 3 years. But I am succession planning and hoping to learn a lot from these events that sound like they're coming up still, and I learned a lot tonight too. So wanting to do a story with for our readers on this, and then also just to do it as get prepared for for transitioning out. I'm about 5 years out to retirement and want to get things planned. So that's where I'm at. And my Poochie is desperately in need of a walk, so I have to leave quickly. So I apologize, but thank you, everybody. It was very interesting.
Thanks for joining us, Janelle. And 5 years out, sounds like that fits into the model of the plan. Rebecca's nodding. Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect. Start your succession planning now. Mike Wimmer, are you still on the line? And can you unmute and
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Mike Wimmer, Mille Lacs County Economic Development Manager. It's 7:31 is that song from my youth. I'm dating myself a little bit. Closing Time is playing in my head right now. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Rebecca, Pam, and John. Truly, from an economic development standpoint, I could not do my job without the SBDCs and the U of M extension. So thank you for what you do. And it was great information, and hopefully I can point a number of business owners your way to your services. So that's all I've got.
awesome. Thank you, Mike. R. Thomson, can you unmute and join us here and introduce yourself? Got to find the unmute button. All right, I'll keep watching that one. Sandy, you're no stranger to anybody in this room, I'm sure, but would you introduce yourself?
I thank you, Mark. I am Sandy Voigt, and I am the director of the Women's Business Alliance. But I am also the president of GPS 4593 for the year 2022, and we are hosting ECE as a presentation at our meeting on Friday. Just put in a plug for that also. As part of the Women's Business Alliance, we are partnering with the Small Business Development Center, the Initiative Foundation, and the We Lead Fund to hold a pitch event for entrepreneurs also. And that's going to be February 23rd. It'll be held at Arrowwood Lodge in Baxter, and we are opening that up. We actually do have a person from Wisconsin that's coming to that event for pitching their business. We don't have any prize money, but we are offering them a scholarship to attend our Success Source Circle for startups and entrepreneurs as part of the services. And we have a panel of experts that people can come in and do their pitch. It's like a Shark Tank with no teeth. And so we're excited. And if you have any entrepreneurs that want to share their business ideas, we would love to have them come and present to us. So you can find that. I'm sure you've probably gotten a bazillion emails from the Entrepreneur Fund, the Initiative Foundation, the SBDCs. So anyway, just let us know. Thank you.
Thanks,
And a
Sandy.
big shout out to Sandy because I got a grant through the Initiative Foundation just in the last month, and that has been a godsend. So thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Linda, are you able to? I don't see you on mute, but I'm not sure what you're doing. You're too tech savvy for me, Linda.
Wait,
There we go.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I sure can.
Okay. Hi, I'm Linda Lydola. I own a business called Raven Performance Group, which brings entrepreneurs together once a month and helps them build better businesses and have richer lives. So it's a peer group or a mastermind for business owners. I've been doing it about forever, 15 years in central Minnesota. And I started because there was nothing like it up here. And I know Janelle was one of my members. So it was nice to hear you and see you again. So that's what I do.
among being the board chair for East Central Energy and active in the community, and I could go on. Thanks. Nancy, your turn there in Fish Lake. You're not in the ice house, are you?
It might look like it, but no. Kind of feels like it. I'm all bundled up here with my blankie and everything. I've never done this before for work. Yeah, I'm with the Chisago County HRA EDA, and we are also a small business development center satellite office that we work with Rebecca. And I don't see as many clients like Pam does, so I don't have so many stories, but I've seen enough where I just think this is such an important topic, and I'd love to see more businesses do this, whether they're thinking of moving on and transitioning out of their business, or just knowing it's going to happen someday. And so I'd love to take you three on a road show through Chisago County to help sell it, because you sure drove it home for me tonight. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Nancy. And the master controller himself, Jordan Zeller.
Hi, Jordan Zeller with the East Central Regional Development Commission. I do economic development and want to thank all of our speakers tonight. Very engaging, just awesome job. And like Nancy said, this is kind of key to how do we, yes, we want to see the region grow, but how do we keep what we have? How do we keep them local, keep them open? How do we transition it down to the next generation, whether it's family or top lieutenants or whatever the situation may be? But how do we keep what we have? And this is kind of core to making that happen, the first step. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, and I'll do the final salute and introduce myself. I probably should have done it at the beginning, but it's my prerogative. I ran the meeting. I can wait till last. I'm Mark Nelson. I'm with East Central Energy, in case you didn't hear that or see that on my name screen. I have been there for 29 years. I am the current manager of government and business relations, and that in a quarter will not buy you a cup of coffee. So, but very happy to have East Central Energy support in being able to do this. Started about 3 years ago, getting close to 3 years. My gosh, that we started having these meetings and putting our heads together, and nice to see the progression, and nice to see the presenters. And again, I'll echo Jordan and say thank you to the three of you that presented tonight. It was a very, very, very interesting and very good topic, very timely, as a matter of fact. And sorry, Amanda, your little plug there too was very good. So didn't mean to discredit you either from your starting at kicking us off tonight. But for those of you that are going to be listening or watching this video, recorded video, please know that anybody that's here tonight is a resource. And to reach out and contact one of them, or contact us here at the Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club of East Central Minnesota. That's what we're here for, is to try and connect people, entrepreneurs and inventors alike, and help them get their ideas and their inventions off the ground. So with that, I will close the meeting. I don't see anything else in chat. I don't see anybody waving a hand telling me they have something else to say. So with that, I will close the chat. And John, you're still on. How long have you been in Duluth?
Well, I moved back to Duluth in 2006.
Okay.
But I was born and grew up here.
Okay.
So, yeah, born and grew up.
Then John, in the words of Dennis Anderson, you remember Dennis Anderson?
Oh yes, I am good friends with his niece.
Okay, well, I will close like Dennis Anderson did. Good night, everybody, and be kind.
Good night and be kind. Thanks, everyone.